Are y'all ready?
Yes.
Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Martin Weinberg, and I'll spell that MartinWeinberg. And I represent the family of one of the attorneys representing the family of Jeffrey Parker, Jeffrey. Is that right? E-R-Y. Jeffrey Parker. And we're here today because we've had a trial this week where the officer that was charged with murder and indicted, Mr. Darby, was convicted of murder. And I'm going to let his brother Bill, he wants to say a few words, and we've got a family friend, Billy Parks, that was Jeffrey's best friend growing up. They'd like to just give brief remarks, but I want to say first, Bill was very vigilant, in ensuring there was justice for his brother. He's living in Arizona. He's been back here several times over the last 3 years. It hasn't been easy, but just want to thank him for pursuing justice on behalf of his brother, and I'll let them talk for a minute, and then we'll discuss where we're going from here.
Ready? I'm Bill Parker, P-A-R-K-E-R. First of all, I'd like to express our family's appreciation to the District Attorney's Office for pursuing this. It was not an easy decision for them, I'm sure, but it was the right decision. And I know our District Attorney probably took a lot of heat for that, but we're very fortunate in Madison County to have the District Attorney that you do. And I want to express our appreciation, the family's appreciation for that. The second point that I would like to make is that I hope that Jeff's death results in better mental health responses nationwide. It's not just in Madison County, but we seem to have a significant issue with that here. And I hope that it was not in vain, and that it does result in better responses. And that's about all I have.
Can I ask you one thing? If someone didn't know Jeff, because we have pictures, I don't think not everyone here really knows who Jeff was as a person. Who are we missing out on him not being here today?
Jeff was just a regular guy. I mean, like the district attorney said, I mean, he was just your normal human being. And I'm going to let Billy respond to that, because there was about a 12-year age gap between Jeff and me.
Okay.
And they grew up together.
Thank you, sir.
Well, they know me as Billy. All friends from high school know me as Billy, but I go by Bill now. But anyway, but that's fine. Jeff was a very dear friend of mine. He and I were like total opposites, but from the day we started high school, actually before high school, we were birds of a feather together. I became part of the Parker family basically for a long time. I was with him for almost every weekend you can imagine for that time frame. But Jeff, very kind soul, very smart. He, as well as everyone else in this world, have their demons. But the things he went through over time, it's just what it is. He was a very smart guy, almost a Renaissance man. He loved music. He could fix anything you asked him to do, and he just asked for help. He wanted help, and what ended up in a situation where he asked for help turned out terribly. And I have to give a lot of thanks to the courage and bravery of Janisha Pegues. Officer Pegues has what she has gone through the last couple of years. I don't think anybody has any clue about, but we give her lots of credit because she stuck to her guns. She went into a situation not knowing what to expect, and what she came out showing everybody was she had empathy for that situation, and she was controlling the situation very well, at least in my opinion. And my take on it is she shouldn't have been the one to turn and talk to Officer Darby in that situation. He should have asked, "You have everything under control?" And rather than doing that, he barged in, and we all know what happened. We can't bring Jeff back. It's the sad part of this. We want justice, but at the same day, it is a sad day. And we wish we didn't have to be here with this. So,
Can I ask you a question?
please.
And I know this verdict doesn't bring him back, but does it bring you some sense of justice?
I think if one thing is going to be, it's closure. Justice, yes. I don't think anybody wants to see anybody be harmed, but the situation is what it is. And it shouldn't have happened in a split second. These things are decided, and the wrong decision was made. And accountability is what it is at that point, in my opinion. So, anything else? Yes.
Obviously, this defense, they're going to try to appeal and kind of keep this going. I mean, knowing that they're going to go that route, I mean, how does it make you feel? Does it send a message to you? The
Appeals are standard. I'm an attorney myself. I don't do what Martin does. I don't know what the criminal guys do, but appeals are standard in this situation. You leave it to that. Personally, I don't see what an appellate court's going to overturn. The facts are facts. You had everything in front of you. The camera footage is there. I don't see how you can look at it any other way. The jury made its decision. The only way they can try to cut away at whatever was presented as evidence, but good luck. It is what it is, as everything else is. Hate to use that, but appeals are standard.
If you could speak to Officer Darby right now, what would you say to him?
That's a good question. I wish he hadn't have done what he did. I feel badly that he may be facing years of jail, but he made a decision. It was split second, and it was the wrong decision. He has to live up to that. It's just a life and death. It's not like, instead of shooting somebody in the face, maybe he could have shot him in the hand to get the gun out. But he used whatever protocols the police said to use, shoot to kill. And he made the decision that it was the right thing to do, and obviously, according to the jury, it was wrong. So, I'm sorry you're facing this. I'm sorry his family has to face it. But it's a decision he made. He was put in that position. We have trust in the police to do what they do. I don't have anything against the police at all. I think they have a very difficult job. But, you also have to understand you have responsibility. And the appropriate thing he should have done was not what he did. What he should have done otherwise, I think Janisha Pegues had everything under control. If he had just looked at that and said, okay, things are fine, but he went by what he thought was the book, I guess, and therefore establishing whatever, rushing in, pointing your gun at somebody, that Janisha had decided things are okay. Okay, we'll get this thing handled. He decided not to do that. And, I can't put myself in his shoes in that regard. I can't, make any decision like he did, and again, I have bias, considering he was my dear friend, but we're all accountable. And if you're going to do that to somebody, you've got to be accountable for it if you did it wrongly. And that's what I would say, I guess.
And I know you mentioned policies and procedures, are you hoping for a change in that?
I think overall, as Bill said, at least with mental health, definitely, I think there are a lot of things that need to be considered at least the city level, if not, heck, the national level in terms of things. But I think the argument that was being made by the defense was, he had a gun and therefore we felt like he needed to be shot because he had a gun. I mean, that's not the way this should work, considering the fact that we have guns everywhere in our country, right? I just think at this point in time, things need to be reevaluated. Is this what we really need? We don't need a situation where people don't call the police if they're in trouble. And here, if there was an acquittal, my personal opinion is, then it'd be like, oh, well, why in the world would anybody call the police in any situation? Because now, if you have a gun whatsoever, they could shoot you and you're free to do it. And I just don't see that should have been the case. So I think, policies and procedures need to be evaluated. And hopefully there will be changes for the better. Again, in my opinion.
Are there any next steps that friends or family want to take moving forward?
I think I'll leave that for Martin.
Okay.
But, I think he's got to go back to Arizona. I came over from Memphis myself, and So in terms of future steps for anything, I leave it for Martin.
Any special spelling of your name?
No, just Bill and Parks, Parks.
Perfect. Thank you.
And that's how we were good friends to start with, because we were so close in last name from high school. Anyway.
Sure. So the fight for justice does not end today. We filed a civil suit, over a year ago, and that's been stayed while that we've had criminal proceedings. By law, we couldn't do anything, and that we'll ask to be lifted and move forward on the civil part of the case. Just some other thoughts on this that and I kind of prepared some stuff. I'm gonna pull this up for a second. It's been a long week for everybody, and again, we want to thank the DA's office for their courage and leadership in this case. It wasn't hard. It wasn't easy for them to do what they did. They faced a lot of criticism from other law enforcement agencies, and there's a lot of tension with the city. We appreciate that. We appreciate, again, Officer Pegues, who showed a lot of courage and leadership in what she did, and took the heat for that, and thank her tremendously. In terms of the city, we've seen some remarks made by the mayor and the police chief, and we're very, very saddened by that they haven't respected what the jury has done and the rule of law in this case. And we hope that this won't happen again. But the reason we're continuing to fight is because there's a major issue in Huntsville. We've seen that time and time again. This is not the first case I've had. There's several others we're looking at, and we've got the commission's report. There's some very troubling details in that, and so it may be time for the Justice Department or somebody to weigh in. I think there's just a mentality in Huntsville that we've got to get around. It's a great city, in terms of what they're doing with technology and aerospace, but this can't be good for the state or the city with the national exposure we've gotten and the remarks they've made. So we hope they will rethink that. That's why we're pursuing the civil suit. This case was specifically about Officer Darby, though. What he did, and if Officer Darby wouldn't have responded, Jeffrey Parker would have lived. Officer Pegues and the other officer were doing the morally right thing, and so the path they've taken is troubling. The fact the city has spent money on his defense is something that we disagreed with. $125,000 and the clearing by the internal review board, that is unthinkable and unconscionable that happened so quickly. There are so many people that just did what's right, and they had the moral compass and courage. The DA's office, the prosecutors, Douthit and Gann, the investigators, DA Broussard, Investigator Vogel, so many people they could have said we're not taking this on, and they didn't do that. They didn't shy away from what was going to be a tough case, and there's still a lot of tension and confusion with the Huntsville police. To say they're shocked, I mean, it shouldn't come any surprise. I mean, the jury was a very straightforward case, and we understand there will be appeals, but we expect the civil case to go forward. And changes have got to be made in Huntsville in terms of mental health, in terms of excessive force. These things shouldn't happen.
What's your ultimate goal of the civil suit?
We want change. I mean, as Bill said, we want things to be handled differently. I mean, we want people to respond appropriately. We think there's a hiring and retention problems. I mean, we question if Officer Darby should have even been an officer. The way he responded to that situation, which we don't feel like he did anything right, much less did he do anything wrong. We don't know that he did anything right from the second he got on the call, from him even responding to the quick action he took. I disagree that he followed any policies and procedure, and if those are their policies and procedures, they need to be changed. So we want that to happen. Of course, there's monetary compensation, and that's not going to bring, any amount's not going to bring Jeff back. It's not going to bring him back at all. I mean, that'll never happen. And so, a lot of times the only way to make change is through, monetary compensation of the city being hit. So, that's something that we're just going to get into the case and, proceed. And we feel like in the end there will be some change in Huntsville. There's going to have to be.
I know the city is working on a plan right now to kind of improve mental health calls. I mean, it's called the 911 co-response program. I know they're having a meeting, I believe, sometime soon about that program, bringing mental health experts to these mental health calls. What do you think about that, about these steps already being taken?
Well, I mean, this happened 3 years ago, and since that time, we've seen other cases. I mean, I've got another family that I'm representing, the Ragland family, who that was nearly a year after this happened, and so I don't feel like, and there's been other cases that have been brought up. I mean, there was the response to the protests that are troubling, and so I don't think any changes have, just because you said you're going to do something or you've implemented small changes. I mean, this is a systemic culture that's been in Huntsville. There are a lot of good officers here, but until you change the culture and make systemic changes to policies and procedures, and unfortunately they're going to have to be hit in the pocketbook for things to happen in this case and others.
Anything else? Yeah.
No, we'll give you all updates. I mean, right now we're just gonna soak it in, and I can't say we're happy. We're relieved that this has gone on for 3 years and it's over. But justice is complicated, and it's not going to be something that is going to come overnight. It's going to be a long process for the family still. Sometimes these take several years to conclude, and we just hope to proceed in a timely manner. And it's a sad day. It is. You've got a police officer that is going to no longer serve, which he shouldn't, and he maybe never should have. But that should spark change, and we should see the city and the mayor. I just hope that they will come to that realization that this shouldn't happen. So it's not a happy day. I mean, we definitely feel relief and glad the jury did what they did, and they had a lot of courage, and they were here for a week and did their job, and we that's your civic duty. But you've also got to thank people for doing the right thing. So it's not always easy to do the right thing. Sometimes it's easier to do the wrong thing. So